Hi, I'm Gayle Nowak with the Story Stylist, and we're chatting today with my dear friend Lolli Leeson. And Lolli is a health and wellness professional, culinary arts teacher, trained chef, and she is the national marketing director for the Juice Plus company. And she's here to talk with us today about some tips that we can use to keep ourselves and keep our families healthy, especially during this time, but also just as an ongoing lifestyle. So I'm really excited to welcome you, Lolli.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you, Gayle. It's one of my favorite topics, kids and families and nutrition. So I'm happy to talk about this topic for sure.
Yeah. I'm really excited. I happen to be somebody who uses the Juice Plus products. I've been using them with my family for about 6 or 7 years, and I'm a huge proponent of them. And I'm going to let you kind of go into the details of what Juice Plus is. But before we do that, I'd love for you to share with us what you would recommend as the number one thing we should really be thinking about right now during this time as far as supporting our immune system.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, people, your mother always told you to eat an apple a day, right? And it keeps the doctor away. But I always grew up knowing that, but I didn't know why. And I think that is one of the biggest, I think, blind spots that we have as parents today is really knowing how, to take the long view of nutrition. And, people know nutrition is important, but they don't know why. And I think that's where, my journey started with this 15 years ago when my kids were 12, 10, and 5. And I went to culinary school and I was teaching cooking classes to adults and kids. And yet I was really humbled because I could not get my own children, to eat the rainbow diet of color of fruits and vegetables that I put into them every day. And I was, to be honest, I was giving in to the chips and the dips, the Doritos, cakes, shakes, pies, fries, you name it. Didn't have any soda in the household, but there was much more that I could be doing, and I just felt helpless. And so when a friend of mine called me and told me, she was a teacher and a trusted friend, and she said that this nutrition from the Juice Plus, the complete and the capsules and the chewables were a game changer for her children. And one of her daughters had some attentional issues in school, and it really, really helped their family. So all I heard that day was fruits and vegetables, and that it was free for my son if I sponsored him on a children's health study. And that was my hot button. And I think as parents, we do things for our kids before we'll do them for ourselves. And, that's one of the things that I've really learned along the way is self-care for parents is just as important, if not, more so than, because if we're not healthy, if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of our kids. So, it's really about getting some education and some resolve and helping your kids really armor up for life.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying about the self-care too, because kids tend to model us anyway, right? And so if we're going to put them on the children's health study, for example, they're going to be more likely to actually take their Juice Plus if mom and dad or one of their parents or both of their parents are taking Juice Plus as well, right?
Yeah, that's the beauty of the children's health study, is that it is self-care for both the parent and the child. And I honestly would have done it just for my child because I wasn't thinking about myself. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I had to sponsor him to get the free product for the
Right.
child, I'm like, okay. And then what I realized, a couple of months into this was that I had nutritional deficiencies as well, because I saw shifts in my physiology. I had more energy. We were eating better. We were sleeping better. We were going to the doctor, for just our well visits. And, it made me realize that food is such a powerful tool for regulating our immune system. And that's really what we're lacking today. We don't have a protein deficiency. We don't have a vitamin deficiency. What we have is a whole food deficiency. We're missing those very nutrients, that the thousands of them, not just the select few that come in a multivitamin. There's only maybe 13, key vitamins in a multivitamin, but what you're missing is the thousands and thousands of micronutrients that are present in the plant kingdom that work in synergy with each other. And when I started to learn this, I was absolutely floored. I'm like, oh my goodness, if I didn't know this information, other moms didn't know it either.
Yeah, I had a similar experience when I started using Juice Plus and we started bringing it into the family. It was, my oldest was 4 and and my youngest was 2. So it was, that's kind of a tough time to be a parent. You're often exhausted and just kind of frazzled. And the kids were in preschool. And so they're getting sick they're getting sick and they're bringing germs home. And it was just kind of this blur of a time of constantly feeling like we were constantly battling colds, being exhausted all the time. I know that I think around that time I started to take up running again. And I noticed probably within like 6 months, it could have been less. I started to recover from running quicker. And I remember I had a dentist appointment and the hygienist actually said, "What are you doing with your teeth?" She had noticed a difference because a lot of times I would go into the dentist and my gums would bleed like a stuck pig. And I had no bleeding and and this was just a regular cleaning. Like she wasn't doing anything abnormal. And she was like, "Wow, what are you doing with your teeth?" And I was like, "Well, the only thing that's changed is that I started taking Juice Plus." And so I noticed those physical shifts very early on too. And then of course we started to get, colds less and less. And, our bodies got acclimated to having that nutrition. So I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about the fact that this is not, I could see where people might easily mistake it as a supplement or vitamin, and it's not that at all.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I do want to, bring up a point about gut health, because anything that's happening in your mouth actually stems in your gut. And we don't realize that. And really today, kids, unfortunately, are more harmed by poor diet than tobacco, alcohol, and drugs combined. And that's a really big statement, but it really is true. And so the deficiencies and the chronic issues that we see with our kids, and sometimes they show up as an ear infection or a cold a month or constipation or more serious issues like Crohn's and irritable bowel and all of these gut health issues. They stem in the gut from really what we're eating, but more importantly, what we're not eating. And it goes back to feeding, the cell. Like the mitochondria is the powerhouse of your cell. And it's what's really driving the health of your cell. And if you don't have enough fruits and vegetables in your body, it's never going to perform as well as it could. And with the toxicity in our environment and the stress and the medications and everything that we deal with, the environmental factors, the more plants that you can get into your diet every day will really help your kids throughout life. And it's really hard to do that. I mean, let's face it, it's really hard to get your kids to eat a large variety of fruits and vegetables. And parents are out there, they're doing the best they can, but Juice Plus really is a catalyst. It's a tool to help get that family's health snowballed in the right direction. And that's why I love it, because it's filling in the gaps that we don't even know that we have. right? I mean, we're not going to always get rid of, the pizza and the Dorito. I mean, we're not going to get rid of that all together. I mean, you can try, but food is one area that it's very hard to control what your kids are eating, particularly when they're in school, they go to friends' houses. You can control it when they're little, but let's face it, when they go out into the world, there's a very toxic food environment. And so the more that you can shape young tastes when the children are young, then they will remember those tastes. And that's what I think is so cool about something called metabolic programming, that you can actually program your cells to, crave, healthy food. Conversely, if you're feeding those cells fat, salt, and sugar, that's what it's going to crave. And you can turn this around very quickly, either to the positive or to the negative. I mean, I've seen, kids' health go downhill very, very quickly within like 4 months, living on a fat, salt, and sugar diet. I've also seen it turn around in 4 months, start turning around as well. So, it's really cool. Our cells turn over every 4 months. And, those new cells that you're bringing online, you want them to be healthier than the cells you've left behind.
Yeah, I want to touch on a couple of things there. Number one, one of the things that I love about you, Lolli, is it's not just you pushing a particular product. I know that a lot of the way that you've grown your business and structured your business, there's a lot of education that you provide in a lot of different ways. One-on-one with people. I know that you host a lot of health and wellness workshops with featured experts. I know that you have brought people into your own home, in your own office, and done workshops with folks around just healthy lifestyle. And you have lots of really cool, great tips that we've implemented. And so I'd love for you to talk about some of those things in a minute, but I just wanted to share a little story about the craving thing and that metabolic programming. I didn't necessarily realize that that's possibly what this is, but one strategy that I've learned with my kids is that if they're saying I'm still hungry, right, and they haven't necessarily eaten the dinner or whatever the meal is that's been prepared, and then they're like, I'm still hungry, but they don't want to necessarily have what's in front of them, right? I automatically think as a parent, okay, well, this is like they're just trying to get to the junk food. So one of the really cool things, and I think that it has to do with what you're saying, this metabolic programming, is the way I test that is to say, well, if you're still hungry and you don't want what's in front of you, have a piece of fruit. You can have a banana, or you can have an apple or grapes or whatever. And if they go for it, then I know, hey, that maybe they really actually were still hungry, and they just like their preference was for something else, versus basically saying, no, you're just going after the junk food and you're going to have to eat what's in front of you. And I don't know, maybe I should make them eat what's in front of them anyway. But then it's very clear, like they're still hungry. They're going to go for the healthy option versus nothing. And then if they're just kind of on I'm going to see how far I can push this boundary, they won't have the other option, and they'll finish their dinner or their meal so that they can get to the dessert. So I think that that's probably an example of what you're talking about with this metabolic programming.
Absolutely. And, when we're eating a diet of fat, salt, and sugar, which I'm sorry is the standard American diet, it's the SAD diet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like your cells are screaming,
Mm-hmm.
that song, I can't get no
right.
satisfaction, and the reason that you're not satisfied is because you're feeding it foods that have no nutrients in them.
Right.
So it's really is cravings. If I can address that just for 1 second, people say, oh, I crave this or I crave that. Cravings really are only a fraction of blood sugar. So if you can keep your blood sugar steady, you won't be having these dips in energy and these cravings for food. It's really an amazing thing. Yes, it is science, but I think that we've complicated food so much, and it doesn't need to be. It's really quite simple. The majority of our diet needs to be, whole foods, not, everything that's in the middle of the aisle and all the packaged foods. So, health is a journey, and it's never a one and done. And that's why I'm so patient with people, and I love the education, because if somebody hadn't taken the time to really, educate me, and I, get my attention through the success of this product, I would have probably never have been interested in it. So it led me, down to really becoming a health coach and honing in, on this topic, which is just so important. And, I love what Dr. Sears said. We do, as parents, we have a blind spot. We try to go get our kids the best teachers, the best coaches. We try to get them into the best schools. We do all these things for our children. We show up at the piano recitals and the dance recitals. And he said, really what's so much more important in the true health, happiness, and longevity of your children hinges on good nutrition. And I just think we've gotten so far away from that we don't even know what portion, sizes is. We don't really know what healthy food is today, because, as I said, we live in this environment that undermines, parents trying to do the right thing for their kids every day. And it's, sugar and salt and fat, it's all very addicting. And the more we eat of it, the more addicted that you get to it. So, so it's just like this cycle, that, if you can start these healthy habits at home when they're young. I'm a huge proponent of family dinner. I think that's the one thing that really stuck for the long term with our kids is eating with them at the table. And there's so much science, to corroborate and to back that up, that, kids that eat family dinner regularly around the table, kids just, they're twice as likely to get A's. They eat more fruits and vegetables. They have better vocabulary. I mean, there's just all these statistics, around, just help, as I said, helping your kids really armor up for life. Is those things really, in large part, happen around meal times. And it's something that's really worth paying attention to. Even if you don't have, you say like, oh, I don't have, we don't have time. Everybody's so busy. But if you just can take the long view and how important it is, it really will make a huge difference in the health of your family.
And now's a good time to start making that a habit, because nobody's going anywhere right now. Anyway,
that's right. And, and people are home cooking, and I've been even myself, I've been doing cooking videos at home, because I'm not, out and about. I'm like, okay, I'm home, I'm cooking, I'm going to do videos for people, and it's fun, our family favorites.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is that I know that you meet families where they're at. It's not, you're sharing some information with us, but I just want to assure everybody, like, this is not, there's no judgment here, and Lolli totally meets you where you are. Her educational programs, the products. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the Tower Garden, because that's such a cool thing too to bring into your household. But it's really just kind of working with people where they are, and really understanding that, this is just the world that we live in, and there isn't a lot of education around it. And so people like you and members of your team are really kind of on the front lines of educating people. I mean, I felt like I was somebody who at least, tried to self-educate around fitness and nutrition. And I thought I was pretty good. And then as we got talking, I was like, wow, I had no idea that how nutrient deficient a lot of even our healthy food is. And so, that's one of the things why the Tower Garden thing is so cool to me, because it's something that you can kind of bring into your home and have fresh herbs and fresh vegetables and have it all year round. And, it's not something that you have to worry about the soil and all that stuff. So why don't you share a little bit about that too?
Sure. Yeah, we have 2 tower gardens growing inside in our living room right now. We're hopefully moving one out soon as the springtime hits. But it's really a way to control your own food source, and it's efficient, and you don't waste food. It's an aeroponic vegetable garden, and it's about 24 inches in diameter. You can grow 20 to 28 plants, and so you're growing vertically, and it's aeroponic. So there's, it's much easier than soil growing, because you don't, have the microbes that are fighting for the health of the plant. And there's just a lot of things about gardening that I think are really daunting for many people. A lot of people live in apartment buildings. They live in small spaces. And this is a way that, you can just have a garden in a small space and be able to control your food source. And I just think, living in New England where we cannot grow all year round, it's great to have our farmers markets in the nice weather in the summertime, but, you just don't, our food comes from very far away, about 1,500 miles on average, our food comes from, and it's not ripe when it's picked. They have to pick it when it's not ripe, because otherwise it would rot, by the time it got to your supermarket. So, over the last 50 years, the nutrient density in our food has gone down and the toxicity in our environment has gone up. And that's where you get this perfect storm of chronic illness, when people are not, eating this variety and eating this way of nutrient dense food. So we're constantly compromised. And being able to grow your own food at home in variety and have, that sort of like your farmer's market in your living room or on your back deck is really an incredible experience.
Absolutely. So is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up today?
I think just thank you for, having me on. And if people are interested in just having a conversation with me, I think sometimes it's just, I like to help people get this information, education, so that when they do go and talk to their doctor, they can have a better conversation about this. And I'm all about empowering people to take control of their health, because there's one thing I know is that nobody's going to care about your health like you do. And, taking care of your own body and where you live, because if you don't, where else are you going to live?
Right. That's a good point, right? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So how can people find out more about you and connect with you?
Yeah. So I have a website. It's called Leeson Life, LEES-onlife.com. And I also have a Facebook page, Leeson Life, and I'm on Instagram. And I always like the good old fashioned telephone.
Yes, definitely.
And that phone number is on my website as well. So I'm always happy to just have a conversation with people. It all starts with a conversation.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your tips and your wisdom today. And hopefully you'll continue to stay well. We'll continue to stay well.
Right. Well, I'm giving my body its best chance.
That's right.
By flooding it with lots of fruits and vegetables every day.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Lolli.
Thank you. Bye, Gayle.
Bye.